I'm going to show some of my gear today, and it's all about backpacking into remote terrain, so it's going to be pretty light, not taking too much more than just the essentials when going out into the hills. Chasing some of the specimens behind me here. These are all Sambar trophies taken from the Victoria Highcountry over the last 10 years or so since I've been living in Australia. This next trip I'm doing is going to be 5 days, which is requiring taking a light amount of gear. It is going to be in late May, so it's going to be cold, so I'm not going to compromise on quality gear, but I'm just not going to take lots of it. So the first thing I start with is what I wear, the layering, and it's fairly basic, but I use old school polypropylene, so I'll take 2 pairs of polypro leggings. You look like Robin Hood, but it's very effective at keeping you warm even when you're wet, so take 2 pairs. 1 pair I just wear the whole time on the hunt, I don't change them, and the other pair stays at camp as a dry pair when I get into my sleeping bag at the end of the day. So that's the polypros, very cheap, pick them up from Kathmandu for about, I don't know, 3 for $20 or $30. I wear 2 polypro tops as well, again 1 layer for hunting, 1 layer for at camp. Just as a bit of a backup, keep 1 polypro singlet, which I'll put on if it's a really cold day or cold night. The next layer up that I'll put on is a windblock. Now this is a Swazi severn. It's quite an old hunting garment, but it's a wind stopper, so it just cuts out that wind. It's very lightweight. The thing I like about it is I can put things in my top pocket, which is usually where I store things like a radio or a GPS, and there's some pockets at the front there. For bottoms, for shorts, I wear a polar fleece pair of shorts. They're very good. They're again very old technology. They're probably 15 years old, but they're marvellous. They keep me bum dry, which is good. And there's pockets there if I need to put anything in them. Now this outer layer, this is a vest. I really just keep this for sentimental values now. I've shot so many massive trophies on this vest. I've had this since I was 16 years old, and I'm 34 now, and God knows how many deer have dropped to this. But I keep this on mainly for high vis so that people can see me. So that's generally what I'll wear on my backpack trip. That's the clothing I'll be wearing on the way in. The gaitors. These are the gaitors here. I just wear a pair of Stoney gaitors that come up to about mid-calf. They're very good at keeping some of the bracken out, keeping your feet dry if you're going to cross creeks relatively quickly. So I never go anywhere without a pair of gaiters, especially if you're going to be hunting in the Victorian high country in some of the warmer months when you've got the potential for snakes. Boots. Now these are probably one of the most important things, with the exception of your binoculars and your good sleeping bag. Boots. Now I use a pair, well, I've had many pairs in my life. I used to wear through them once a year, which is quite expensive. When I was hunting a lot, I literally would wear through Les Sportivas, Scarpas. I killed probably 8 pairs of those. And these pair are a pair of Lowas. They're a GTX Ranger 3. I've only been on 2 hunts on them, but I'm already wearing them out. I just put a lot of strain on boots. I cover some pretty big terrain, and I go through some pretty tough country, and whenever you're doing that, especially in rocky terrain, whether it's in the Southern Alps of New Zealand or if it's climbing through the Victorian high country, and your boots are always getting wet, which in my case they are. I don't let rivers stop me from going into places. Wet feet is just part and parcel, so having wet feet on the hill and constantly sidling and moving through steep country will really put a lot of wear and tear through where your seams are, and especially at this fulcrum point here. So anyway, I'll be wearing a pair of Lowas. Here we are. Alright, the other thing I have with me when I'm wearing my clothing, my layers, is binoculars. Now I have these binoculars strapped around my neck the whole time. Even if I'm bush stalking, I'll still have them around my neck because I'm constantly bringing it up, having a look, any movement. Sometimes I pick up a flicker of an ear, or just the movement of an antler. Warm insulated layer, which if it's really bad, then I'll pull out this particular layer here, which is my puffer jacket. This is just one I picked up from Kathmandu, but lots of puffer jackets, they all do the same thing. I've gone for a 550 weight, so that's almost half of a sleeping bag, and it really is like wearing a sleeping bag on your upper body. Really important when you're in the cold climate, especially if you're starting to get cold. Whack that on, put an outer shell on, like a waterproof layer like that tahr anorak on the outside, and you're pretty much bomb proof up top. So I don't go anywhere without my puffer jacket now, especially for the trips that I do, which are typically in winter. So the important thing too is, if you've got this in your day bag, is that when you're pushing hard, and if you get onto a good animal or you see a big trophy that you think you're not going to get to before it gets dark, I've often just slept the night out. And if you've got one of these on your top layer and you get a fire going to keep your legs warm, that can be extremely advantageous. The other warm layer that I have is just the polar fleece pants. Now I don't really use polar fleece pants unless it's very cold, or unless I'm moving slowly through bush country or glassing where I'm sitting down a lot. And I'll wear these right over the top, polypros, the long johns that make me look like Robin Hood. So I think I'll move to my outer shell, which is what I use for if it's raining. I've chosen a Swazi tahr anorak for this particular trip, just because I'm wanting to go really lightweight. I do like the Stoney Creek gear too, and especially the camouflage, it's great. I just find it's a little bit heavier, that's all. Gloves. Very, very important. Having a pair of gloves so that you can glass in the cold weather, really important. Anywhere between March through till about October, November, you'll still need gloves glassing up in that high country. It can be cold in Victoria and it can be brutally cold in New Zealand, so I used to take gloves all the time. This is a really old roll mat now. I probably need to upgrade it. It's losing a lot of the air, so I constantly blow it up during the night, but it does the trick. It's a 3/4 length roll mat, which means it gets my upper body and all the way down most of my legs. If you want to compromise on some more space and weight, go for a half size, which is just really your upper torso down to about your bum, where you want to keep insulated. So that's my sleeping mat. This here is my sleeping bag. Now I use a Kathmandu rum doogle, again old, 15 years old, but I use feathers, so goose down, which is 4 season. It's rated for -30. But I've got it for mainly Southern Alps in New Zealand, and that can be brutally cold in winter if you're chasing tahr, so sleeping bag, really important. Now I also take a fly, a bivy bag fly. Again, lightweight. I want to be able to move on. I don't mind a little bit of airflow through the night. Keep everything relatively dry. Sometimes in a tent, if it's all zipped up, it can get a little bit of condensation. So again, lightweight fly to be able to keep mobile. In the sleeping bag, that packs away nicely. And then in terms of protecting everything, I always put my gear into waterproof bags. So what are these? Sea to Summit, 65 litre my space. So that's where all my clothes will go. This is where a lot of my camera gear will go, and I've got lots of camera gear, so I always want to keep that in an airtight and watertight bag. Very important, my first aid kit. I'm not going to go through all the contents of it, but there's a lot of stuff in here. I'm not going to compromise on my safety or the safety of my mates, so I take a lot more than what is probably needed. My water storage unit. Sometimes I'll take a water bottle, but a camelback's usually what I take. The Victorian high country, which is where I'm going for this late May trip, we are going to be climbing up very high, which means that at times I'll be dropping down to get water, so I might take 2 of these camel packs because I don't want to be dropping down to get water more than once a day. So these are Uniden 2-way radios, which are AA batteries. I think they take 3 AA batteries, and I'll take these on the hunt, and I'm constantly in communication with my mates. You know, whether it's AAAs or AAs, there's another pair there, take plenty of those. GPS, I think it's very important to have a GPS so you can mark good waypoints, whether you found a good wallow, some stag rubs, maybe you found a great face where they're just constantly feeding on, and you want to remember it for next time. Might have found a clearing or a slip or some vantage point to be able to shoot across a gully, whatever it is. But more often than not, this is just as an emergency backup in case I'm lost and it's dark and I can't quite work out which way to go. Head torches, I take a couple of pairs, take plenty of batteries for them. I've been caught out many times and had to stay the night out because of not having a head torch, or I've been back very late walking under moonlight. In terms of some of the cookware at camp, usually a spork, where you can get some of these. I usually just take a spork. Something to be able to boil your food in and have a bowl at the same time. Put a cup of coffee in, tiny stove, plug it into a propane or a butane bottle, fire it up, there you go. I never leave anywhere without a lighter. I've been caught out before without a lighter and it can be a very miserable experience. Power bank. I've got a lot of devices I take on the hill, so this power bank here, Jackery. Now it's got a few different settings. It can charge slowly, it can charge fast. Pull through. I'll always take a pull through in case crap gets stuck in my rifle or brush goes down the barrel. Usually what I'll do though is I'll put tape on the edge of my barrel tip. You'll often see in some of the photos of some of the trips I've had or videos that you'll see a tape around the edge anyway. Basically what happens is the gap or the air space between the chamber and the end of the tape just pops off when you pull the trigger as the bullet moves out. So that just pops off, saves you having to get crap down it, but I still take this in case I need to give it a pull through. I usually find though with my rifle, if I give it a pull through, the first shot will be slightly higher and a little bit to the right than my shots once the rifle's fouled. Now obviously very important to bring your ammo. So this trip I'm doing 180 grain and 220 grain, flat based projectiles, round noses. The 180 grains are a Hornady, the 220 grains are a Sierra. The hunting trip that I'm doing in May is, while we're getting up high to do some glassing, we're going to be looking onto ledges that are within a few hundred metres and probably pushing through and stalking in and out of some broken and open snow gums and country like that. So I can't stress this enough. If you're going to chase big stags, or stags in general, whether they're big or not, it'll still feel heavy, take a saw to cut off that skull cap. That way then you can save a bit more weight for putting in some of the meat that you're going to get, take the back steaks or whatnot, but the last thing you want to do is just carry excess bone, unless you actually want to do a European mount where you mount the whole skull and clean it up, that's fine. But for me, I just like to do a skull cap mount, and this is going to help me reduce about 12 kilos of weight. I used to travel with a soft gun case like this, soft gun bag like this. I would recommend not doing that in future. 2 years ago I had my 7mm Magnum snapped by a particular airline carrier. The stock got broken in half. I don't know how that happened because firearms are treated exclusively different to other luggage, but anyway. So now I travel with a hard case. I haven't brought it out here, but it's just a hard pelican case. Bag. For this trip I'm just going to take a, I think it's an 80 litre or 85 litre Mountain Designs pack. The reason I've chosen this one is because I like the canvas. The canvas is really heavy duty and it just wicks away the water. It's fine. It's a Aussie brand, Aussie design, so I guess I may as well use it. And I will typically use this pack, which is a backpack. I'll use it also for my day trip. If I just use a buck knife, a stainless steel blade, takes a little bit to get the edge on it, but then inversely it takes quite a bit to make it blunt. So I use this. It's got a bit of a drop point, great for boning out, great for fleshing out, if you're trying to cape a trophy out, and generally good for skinning. And that's probably the last of it. In case you wanted to know what camera gear I'm using, I use a Canon 5D Mark II with all the professional lenses, so I don't scrimp. Take this little Sony camera. I've also got the drone, my DJI Mavic Pro, little drone, amazing little thing, just folds out like this, very small, compact, packs away into something that's not too much bigger than my camera actually. A little wee remote controller which you pair to it, and I put my phone in between so I fly it with my phone app, and that captures some beautiful aerial photography.